The following story comes from the author Lee Brickley and his book Haunted Cannock Chase. This is just one of the many ghost stories and reports of real paranormal activity that's featured in his book. The black-eyed child of Cannock Chase is probably the most well-publicised supernatural entity that people are known to encounter in the Staffordshire forest. Some believe she represents the tormented soul of a little girl who was murdered in the area during the 1960s. But there are just as many other folk who suggest the black-eyed child is a demon or indeed an alien. She is often seen at Castle Ring, the Iron Age hill fort stationed at the highest point of the Cannock Chase woods. However, the following encounter occurred at Birches Valley during the summer of 2021, when two teenagers decided it would be a good idea to camp illegally in the middle of the forest. It was a decision they would soon live to regret. Kylie Drakeford and Ben Tilley were both 17 at the time of this incident, and they were very much in love. Now, due to the global pandemic, the couple were unable to see each other as often as they would have liked, and options for them to spend an entire evening together were almost non-existent. That was until Ben came with an idea. He grabbed his old tent from the garden shed and suggested they spend a night somewhere on Cannock Chase. Kylie thought it was the perfect solution to their issues, but things didn't exactly go according to plan. Firstly, it was raining pretty hard that evening, and it turned out that the tent was less than watertight, leaving the couple feeling rather wet and cold. Ben was smart enough to take some gaffer tape and did what he could to patch up the holes, but still, the rain leaked in. It's still better than being without her, Ben remembers thinking to himself. The couple zipped two single sleeping bags together for warmth and tried to stay as dry as possible. That was until around midnight, when they both heard something moving around outside of their tent. Believing it was probably deer passing through the woods, both campers remained as still and as quiet as possible. The last thing they wanted to do was spook the animals, as they thought they may become very aggressive. Ben realised something wasn't right when he listened closer to the noise. It wasn't a mob of deer at all. There was just one set of footsteps, and they seemed to be slowly encircling the tent. Kylie suggested they unzip the tent door to take a look, and Ben agreed. Slowly, he lifted the zip, and as the teeth separated and the door opened to reveal the dark Cannock Chase forest, both campers heard the unmistakable sound of a small child giggling. Ben and Kylie immediately turned their torches on and began peering out into the shadowy woodland and calling out to what they believed must have been a lost child, but they couldn't see anything at first. Still, the giggling continued. Ben was the first to notice something move from behind one of the trees surrounding their camp. Then Kylie caught a glimpse of the same thing. There was something out there, all right, and it was running from tree to tree, hiding itself behind the trunks and occasionally peering out towards the couple. Neither of them could move their torches fast enough to keep up with it, and so they didn't get a decent view until it finally stopped out from behind a tree and stood in the clearing in front of them. I was absolutely terrified. I'd read the stories in the news about the black-eyed child, but it wasn't until the thing stood right in front of me that I couldn't quite believe them. I knew instantly that we were dealing with the real thing because it moved in ways humans simply can't move. It was like it could teleport from one place to another. Kylie remembers. I was shining my torch right at her, and she just stood there staring at us, with her head slightly dipped. That's when the giggling started to get louder and louder. It really sounded like it was coming from all around us, even though I could see she was right in front of us. It was really disorientating for a few seconds. Then she bent down for a moment, as if to adjust her shoes, stood back up, and ran off down a nearby path through a dense section of trees. Ben added. The couple knew enough about the black-eyed child to refrain from following her back into the woods. Many people believe that she attempts to lead people away from the trodden path and into more isolated areas of the forest with the intention of getting them lost or causing them harm. Thankfully, on this occasion the experience was almost over for Ben and Kylie. Had they chosen to follow the black-eyed child, things could easily have taken a very nasty turn. It was impossible for the young lovers to get back to sleep that night, and so they simply waited in their tent for the sun to rise. It was only in the morning that they noticed that things outside their tent weren't exactly as they had left them. At around 7 a.m, Kylie and Ben bit the bullet and climbed out of their tent for the first time since the previous evening's supernatural encounter. They were both shocked to discover unusual piles of stones, evenly spaced around the entire perimeter of their tent. There were lots of strange stick formations hanging from the trees that looked a little bit like dream catchers. The slightly shaken couple decided it was time to pack up and leave as soon as possible, and that's precisely what they did. Now, the walk back to Ben's car would take about 15 minutes, and it was largely uneventful until he heard Kylie, who was only about 3 feet behind him, scream at the top of her lungs. Ben dropped everything and spun around, just quick enough to catch a glimpse of a small child with black eyes peering back at him from behind an oak tree. Ben shouted, "Leave us alone!" He grabbed Kylie by the hand and made the remaining short journey back to his car in double time. So, do you think Kylie and Ben had encountered the famous black-eyed child of Cannock Chase? One thing is for sure, they certainly won't be venturing to the woods at night again anytime soon.